Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for another round of Comic Corner, and today we're going to get into it with the Nightwing Annual. So, the Nightwing Annual is pretty par for the course for most annuals. There's a story that actually really does go into the book going forward. There's a story that's alright, and then a story that's actually kind of forgettable or misses the point. That's an annual. So, our first story is actually, I think, the real meat of it. I think something that everyone really wants, and that is, well, the story of Heartless. All right, I love it. We're finally getting into Heartless, and hopefully, this will be the story that really makes me have a very positive opinion of Tom Taylor's Nightwing. Tom Taylor's Nightwing so far has just been all right. Nothing about this has been amazing. Like, we're not really talking about it every time we come up to great books. We're like, oh, this was all right. This was all right. It's a well prepared meal. It's not a good meal. All right. It's like, it tastes right, but it doesn't taste great. All right. So anyway, we talk about the event for the Flying Graces, the night that Dick Grayson's parents died or killed. And the reason that's important is because this is actually a big moment. It's a very important moment, not just for Dick Grayson, not just for Bruce Wayne, not just for Gotham City, but for someone else. So let's go into it. So, our story starts with a butler who talks about that night and arrives at a mansion to begin his new job. And it is not who we thought it was. It is Gerald Chamberlain. It sounded like Alfred, didn't it? But no, he is here for the Lyle family. And the Lyle family have a very unique child, a very interesting, weird child named Shelton, who, as you see, is about to torture or kill a cat. And it turns out Shelton doesn't speak, he doesn't even show much emotion, and he freaks his parents out. But luckily, Chamberlain's here, like, I got him, I got him. So who is Chamberlain? Well, Chamberlain's just a really scummy dude, and he's probably a psychopath. He really isn't Chamberlain. He's not Gerald Chamberlain. He took the identity of the guy that was going to be Gerald Chamberlain, who was using the identity of a butler to hide out for a bit. So, yeah. But luckily, because he's also a cold-blooded killer, he can tell. He just needs to find something that will help Shelton come out of his shell. And so he takes him to butcher shops, feeding time at the zoo, trying to get a reaction out of him. You can kind of guess where we're going, can't you? I know you can't, because you're a smart audience. And when they go see the Flying Graysons, well, that's what really helps him come out of his shell. That's the moment. That death, that destruction, that loss of innocence of Dick Grayson is what helps Shelton come out of his proverbial shell. As a matter of fact, for the first time, he's talking, he's excited. Like, you see when those bodies fell and they shattered, and the boy was crying, and it was just amazing and fun. And Joe's like, I'm really happy you found something you're excited about. But for the record, just telling you this, as your friend, don't tell people about that, all right? Like, I understand you. I love you. But other people won't. So Shelton's able to come out of his shell. He's more open with his parents. He's being like a normal kid. And that helps, but that also means that he gets to be a dick. And even more hilarious is that at his private school, he will meet Dick Grayson. And he will, of course, throw the fact that his parents are murdered in his face, or his parents are dead. And so begins an interesting rivalry with Dick Grayson. So, then, one day, Shelton and his family are in a helicopter accident, and Gerald, who loves Shelton more than anyone, forges his parents' signature so that way they have to donate his organs to him. And so begins his life, as with a new heart and everything, as well as the heir to this immense fortune. And they keep going, so they replace, we could wait for recovery, we could wait for him to get back on his feet. Let's just give him new legs. Give him new arms and let's replace all of it. And they need a new heart to keep pumping all of that going in because he's getting like the best of the best. And here we are. He meets Nightwing. I don't think he knows that Nightwing is Dick Grayson. If he doesn't, this is amazing because this is the birth of Heartless. And Heartless was effectively, really, he became, the identity of Heartless was created after that accident. But the character, the sadist, the person who really came out of his shell, was at the death of the Graysons. So yeah, this is intense. Then of course we get to the death of Blockbuster and the taking of his heart. And this is kind of awesome, not gonna lie. So Tom Taylor is able to really get a good story going. And it's hard to say. This is a great promise. Blockbuster was not a character he created. He had very little say in, who Blockbuster was, what his origins were, and whatnot. I think Tom Taylor works best with characters he gets to create, or he has enough freedom. You keep him in continuity, he tends to stumble over himself a bit, or at least his story is not as great as it could be. Put him out of continuity, he writes really great stuff. Our next story is Night Out, which is actually the alright story. It's sort of fun. It's really about Haley. So Haley she's at her phase where if she's left alone, she will chew stuff up and go a bit berserk. She's a puppy. She's adorable. Like, let her do what she wants. And Dick Grayson feels like, I should spend more time with her going on. Barbara sends a picture of what she's wearing underneath her overcoat. It's really just a dress. I don't know what she thought she was doing there, but all right. Dick Grayson's a thirsty bastard, all right? So he leaves Haley there, and then apparently while they're out, Dick and Barbara are attacked by Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze. Weird trio. Like, all three of these people are not really villains, per se. Like, Ivy hasn't been a proper villain in years. Catwoman hasn't been one. Mr. Freeze, last time he had, like, an actual in-canon story, he got the brakes beat off him by Batman. So who knows? But anyway, that's all stopped by... oh my god. Was it Batwing? I don't know. It's adorable. It's Haley. She comes in. She saves the day. And given the Medal of Honor. All cats are outlawed. And it turns out this is a dream Haley has as she chews up. Oh, let's look at the damage here. A Nintendo Switch. And is that a PS5? Jesus. This is your fault. Both of your fault. All right? But anyway... yeah, so next one is a story that should work, but Tom Taylor's Superman just doesn't quite work. Like, he doesn't want to put in the work. And normally, I wouldn't say that. But it is sort of, I think, in my opinion, a fair criticism of his Superman. He does not want to put in the work to building up John as a great hero, even when he has a story like this, which sets him up to be one. So this story is John coming to Dick saying, hey, I made a mistake. He really hurt somebody while, fighting crime. Dude had an energy shield. He punched too hard, and dude's really messed up. And he's like, he came to Dick because these street-level heroes, they don't have superpowers, all right? So they have to be trained to fight with precision, with power, with control. One hit, and you're down, all right? So you can still apply the same thing to reverse. Now, this is a weird thing for John, because John's been through this before, though. Peter Tomasi's Superman. If you don't recall our comic run talk, you can check that out there. I'll leave a call there. I'll leave a little card somewhere around here, or I'll leave it in the description where John had trouble really controlling his powers, and it really shook him up. So it seems Taylor's trying to tie into that with an older John who seems a bit more in control, a bit more confident. And of course, like a lot of young people, especially young people who had to grow up too fast, when he hits a hurdle, he really sort of draws in on himself. He's really scared. He cannot make that kind of mistake. And to be fair, that's a great fear to have if you have the kind of power John and Superman have, that you might accidentally hurt somebody. And even more so, even if it's a criminal, you can't just, punch their arms off. Doesn't look good, first of all. It's also just a really messed up way to do that. Because, you got to commit to it. Anyway, so now he's like, okay, sure. He's like, okay, so I want you to go down this training route that me and Robin used to go, and he does it, and like twice. We don't get to see it, like he's that fast. He gets to do it. Then he like hits a training dummy, and it goes up and up and up, and it'll burn up when it re-enters the atmosphere. Fine. Then it's like, okay, so show me what she did. And this, I think, is really like the best part of the comic in terms of like visuals and storytelling it's going to do. Okay, so this is the shield. So I want you to show me how you punch him. Like, okay, you gotta rotate your shoulder less. Too much rotation. So I'm like, okay, that is important. Like, John doesn't know how to punch effectively. He said as if he'd ever successfully punched anything. I go to town on a pillow. But anyway. So that's the story there. He's going to teach him how to properly punch. And then he goes, okay, so you're going to have to do it 10,000 times. And he does it, like, in a blink. I'm like, that's not really the point of this. The point should be we should see John struggle to control how much power he puts into his punch. That way we see maybe a stricter Nightwing on John, and sort of like finding a proper balance between Nightwing and Batman, which this story is trying to. Nightwing recalling his training and sort of doing the opposite of what Batman did. Like, you can't trust anyone, you can't be vulnerable. It's like, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to trust people, it's okay. And that's sort of where the story falls apart, is while these visuals are good and these flashbacks are good, they don't really invest into John's particular story of him learning to control himself by saying, hey, I did it 10,000 times. We're already saying, hey, he has it. And now it's like, I don't even believe that John is nervous anymore. We should go to that entire story, and then you can even go Nightwing saying, all right, I want you to punch me. Right, we're going to fight, and I trust you to do it right. In other words, I trust that you're not going to hurt me. And that would be great, all right? But we don't do that. Also, by default, Nightwing should really just send him to, like, Donna Troy or Supergirl. Like, Donna Troy, who knows how to fight, could help him with that a bit better. And Supergirl is a Kryptonian. He can learn how to properly punch and probably fight with that level of super strength. But no, this has to go to Nightwing because for some reason John really likes Nightwing, although it really only came about in the story in Tom Taylor's Superman. Okay, sure, whatever. Overall, this is, like I said, it's an annual. There's some ups, there's some downs, there's some lows. Yeah, it's, yeah. I would have to say the Haley one is blue. It's a blue. It's like, oh, no, it was fun. It was fun. The one with John, poo-poo red. Oh, poo-poo red. And, yeah, the first one with Heartless. We're good for green. We're good. Do we like the green? I kind of like the green. Anyway. Sorry. Back to where we were. This is Superman Returns. Oh, I'm sorry, Superman Kal-El Returns, which is still a stupid name. All right, I'm not saying Kal-El's a stupid name, but to call this book Superman Kal-El as if he's really anything other than Clark is ridiculous to me. But anyway, this is a series of stories, 3 stories written by a bunch of authors to sort of herald the fact that Superman is back on Earth. The events of Warworld are over in the conventional sense, as the fact that we've left Warworld. Actually, we took it with us. So, yeah. So the first one here is really good, written by Mark Waid, and it really is an adventure with Superman and Batman. And what's really cool about that is while facing off against this guy that's, using music to control people, Batman's able to just knock them out with gas, and then Superman shows up, and they bro hug. I like their bro. Like, they hold hand, they shake hands, and they bring it in, like, bring it in, man. And that's cool. That's cool. Consider the fact that Wade is also writing World's Finest with Superman and Batman. I think that's great to see. I would like to see the Trinity, like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. I'd like to see that book again, but whatever. This is fine. This story really is just a simple, hey, let's beat up the guy called Mr. Nobody, which is a really great, stupid name. Like, I get it, but it's such a bad name in the sense that you wouldn't be afraid of somebody called Mr. Nobody unless he truly was frightening to make that name work. But whatever. So they go through. It's really kind of simple watching him lose. Like, Superman just goes in, breaks his conductor's baton, and goes from, like, it's apparently a really special one. But doesn't matter, it's broken. Mr. Nobody traps them in the pages of a comic book. Meta. And Batman's like, no, that's fine. He's testing our logic, testing our reality. This is abandoned logic, because this makes no sense. So we'll just use the lack of sense to our advantage. This is all made of flowers. Poof. We pushed our way out. Gold. Nobody tries again. Like, I'm going to turn you into people looking like me. He's like, no, dude, we undid that. And they fudged him. It's cheesy goodness, and I love it. And then the comic ends with Bruce making Clark breakfast. Like, hey, you want some omelets? I'll make some omelets. And they go from there. It's great. This one here is my least favorite one, written by Sina Grace. I think this is the first time I've read anything written by Sina Grace. She has not really endeared herself to readers. And I personally don't know. I think the art is worse than this story, because really the story is Jimmy meeting up with Superman again. And the art is just terrible. Jimmy just wants a picture to, like, really commemorate Superman's return. And the whole time I'm thinking, which could work, but this art is just terrible. I just don't like it. Like, the faces, like, the bodies are all right, but some of the faces are just terrible. Like, it's just not me. It's not me. It's not to my taste. I'm sure the people that do like it, more power to you. There's only like small handful of comic artists who I would go, I can't read this book. This one, I would not read this if it was written by Sonia Grace. Not because it's bad, it's just not that interesting. I need a really good hook. So maybe this is the right book for me to judge Sonia Grace. But anyway. So Jimmy's holding an art gallery for like some of his stuff for like charity. They want to find the right picture, and then we spend time giving John a tongue bath. Like, hey, John's been doing really great work. Like, whenever there's a problem, he's found a way to stick around a bit longer to figure out, hey, why this happened, how we can fix it. And the whole time I'm thinking, is he though? Like, what issue is coming back here? This is a robbery. How does he, like, well, let's make sure robberies don't happen ever again. Like, how? It's an economic problem at most. All right, it's a societal problem. Why people turn into crime? Poor education, lack of opportunity, systemic problems. Like, pick the issue. John can't fix them in a day. All right, if they were easy enough to fix, they wouldn't be problems. So anyway. So apparently, Superman looking at these photos is all that Jimmy needs. Like, this is a picture, and I'm thinking, you cannot be serious. You really can't. Anyway, so whatever. That's how this comic ends. I don't get it. And next we got another one, and we got two more. One is in Venice, Italy. This is Clark and Lois being a married couple before Superman comes back properly, which would make a lot more sense if everyone didn't know that Clark Kent was Superman. But whatever. So anyway, I guess people understand if he's wearing that, he's not to be bothered. Points to Earth. Even Lex doesn't do it. So anyway. So he comes back. John, I do like this aspect of the story and the fact that John thinks, I'm following Lex Luthor's trail. I'm about to bust him, put him away for good. And the whole time I'm thinking, boy, that's not Lex. That is not Lex. You think you've got Lex because you got one trail? Your parents have devoted chunks of their lives to taking down Lex Luthor, and they haven't done it. But I think that's very much a really good point that John thinks he's got this. He thinks that, he's handled the job well enough. He's been Superman for maybe about a couple months. He thinks he's got this. He thinks he can handle Lex Luthor. And I think that's the problem. I think this would have been a really great story had John's first real outing been against Lex Luthor, like at his best, and John realizing he's totally out of his depth, that he's not ready to handle Lex on his own. But anyway, that's kind of what the story is. So he goes down there like, I got him here. I'm going to bust the place open. And he's like, so Lex is like, hey, Superman, what you doing, man? How's my buddy? What you doing? We're turning these abandoned warehouses into homeless shelters. Why you tear my door down? And John just looks like an ass. He flies off like, and yeah. And Superman Clark has to remind him, like, you've got all these superpowers, but, Lex scored like an 1800 on the SATs. He's a super genius. What did you think was going to happen? And he's like, I can never be you, Dad. I'm like, you will be. You will be in time, and you'll be better. I'm like, that's kind of not the argument I think Clark wants to tell his son. Like, no, you don't have to be me. You just have to be you, and being you is fine. You're just not ready for Lex. Okay? You're punching out of your weight class here, all right? So anyway, we just go some father-son bonding here. Like, look, let's go thwart Lex together. And Lois like, oh, that's sweet. And they go off, and John figures out, oh yeah, Lex is smart. His henchmen are dumb as bricks, and they sort of give out some hints accidentally. One is like, dude, shut up. Stop talking to him. Don't listen to him. Superman, oh, you did. All right. And basically, John bluffs Lex, and I loved it. And they sort of hug, and then John asks, hey, did you check out that pizza place in Venice? Like, no, we were busy touring. I'm like, yeah, they spent the time boning. And which is fine. They're a happily married couple. They haven't seen each other in months. It's better than when Bendis did it, where, their son was still missing. Who wrote this? Marv Wolfman. Good work, Marv. Good work. Was there anything I'd improve on this particular story? No, actually, I think it was all right. And finally, we have this one here. I forget what this one is. This is really just Superman coming to his second home, which is the Hall of Justice. And yeah, it's all right. Greeted by Naomi, as if anyone cared. Wally West, Martian Manhunter, And, they all just eat at the cafeteria, and they talk about how the Justice League is like this other home for them, and, all the things they've seen done. There's not a lot to this story. This is more like, hey, Naomi, at some point, you can always look to the Justice League as a place for you to feel at home. All right? And that's all right. That's all right. This is... Who wrote this one? Who wrote... I don't know. It doesn't matter. Because this story is really just exactly what Superman was doing before the events of Dark Crisis. So, yeah, whatever. Overall, this book was all right. Not enough to get me to read Superman, Son of Kal-El, which that book is getting canceled, so I don't particularly care. Some people say, like, he's not getting canceled. He's going to do a mini after this. Like, wait, why does he need a mini? Couldn't he just finish it here? Like, if Tom Taylor was writing a story that spanned a couple different books, and then it said, hey, you know what, Tom, just put all those, I hate to say it like this, but put them all into like a 6-issue mini. I'm like, couldn't you just do 20 issues and Superman Kal-El Returns? Because it's just one story. There's not a bunch of different threads he has here that has to be tied up in a separate book. So that imprint, this title is ending. Like, no one's coming in to take over afterwards. All right? Tom Taylor is just off. The book did not do well. All right? It had a good spike, primarily bisexual John's reveal, and then the story just fell down. Spectacle does not mean a story is good. All right. Overall, though, if we have to go with, this is not a story. It's not. It's definitely not green. Oh no, it's not. I'm having too much fun with this. It's a mellow story. Like, the whole book's kind of mellow. Like, yeah, it had some things, had some bad things, had some good things. Was not a good introduction. Actually, it might be the most neutral introduction to Sign of Grace I've ever heard. But anyway, let's go to the real meat of this week. The real book that was just it's good to see him. Good to see him back. Good to see him back. This is the JSA. So, the JSA, written by Jeff Johns, and this story picks up relatively after the events of the Golden Age. Remember, there are 2 stories going on here after the original Golden Age special, and they all sort of lead to the same story. So, the JSA here is about Helena Wayne. If you recall, last time we saw her, she'd found out that her father, Batman, had been killed, and now she's trying to figure out who was behind it. Namely because the only way some 2-bit criminal could kill her dad is with magic. And it turns out that is exactly what's going on. So she, at this point, with help from the JSA, which is also sort of reformatted as a way to give people a second chance, she is trying to find out who killed not just her dad, directly, who gave the magic, who sold him the goods to kill her dad, as well as who went after her friend, Dr. Fate, Khalid Nassour. Oh, love that Khalid is here, and he's Dr. Fate. Love it. So, and she has some help. She has a Robin. Her Robin this time is Solomon Grundy. And I thought, what a world where Solomon Grundy is your sidekick. Okay. All right. Weird, but okay. And in this sort of new era of heroes, let's talk about Huntress. Huntress is in this new sort of way. Remember, Huntress is not Helena Bertinelli. All right. This is Helena Wayne from Earth 2. All right, with Commissioner Batman and whatnot. So, in her whole new direction, her whole new lease on life, her mother's kind of against this. She did not want Helena to put on a costume and go out and fight bad guys or anything. She just wanted to live a normal life. Didn't want to join the JSA, which she has reformatted to have, like, children of criminals. And she's like, why are you giving them a second chance? And she's like, well, because Dad gave you a second chance that I even exist. And that's a good point. People should be given a second or even a third chance. They're not really entitled to it, but it'd be nice if they did. If an opportunity is presented for someone to make a better life for themselves, should we not give it? And if the JSA can do that, why not? But anyway, there's one person who's not happy about that decision, and it is Karen, who's going full Karen. This is the first time I'm just like, I'm not a big Power Girl fan right now, but I get it. I get what she's saying here. This team is kind of a disgrace because they weren't taken off the street to be superheroes. No, they were pretty much raised by supervillains. And we've got Gentleman Ghost, who he's been a long time enemy of the JSA, and Hawkman. Oh, especially Hawkman. I recently read Jeff Johns' Hawkman, and that story is... Hawkman is a very weird character, but we'll get into that later. Solomon Grundy. There is the son of Harlequin, not Harley Quinn. Harlequin, the old villain, spelled differently. Also, no connection to the joke as far as I know. And Iceman knockoff. I think JSA heroes will know these people a lot better than me. The one I really want to point out is Ruby Sokov. She's the new Red Lantern, and her father. She inherited the ring from her father, who gets her power from the Crimson Flame, in the same way that Green Lantern Alan Scott got his from the Green Flame of the Starheart. So yeah, that to me is really cool. I would like to see this. It feels like a generation is missing from the JSA. But, okay, that's sort of the point, though, isn't it? This whole thing Jeff John's saying, there's this era missing from the JSA's history, and it's affected everything else. So anyway, they all go down, and they've had to deal with sort of the media outcry to this, because as cool an idea as it is to, refill the JSA's ranks with children of super criminals, it doesn't look good to the public. Hey, these great heroes are now being replaced by villains, the children of villains, who still don the costume of their evil parents. There's no attempt to rebrand themselves. And they talk about, at some point, their parents have killed, attacked veterans, ruined veterans parades, really sort of spit in the eye of things the JSA fought against. So, from the public perception, this is weird. It's like when the X-Men put Magneto on the team, and I thought, from a public perception, this is the dumbest thing you could do. All right? Magneto is a mutant terrorist. Whether you think he's right or not, the public perception says, why is this guy here? All right? People know that he's attacked military bases. He's attacked... He's not a good person, so you have to have a good reason for putting these people out, especially when you're trying to incur good movement. The idea that Professor X and House of M was powers of 10. He said all mutants are good. That's not true. Being a mutant is whatever. We're going off on a tangent. Let's focus on the JSA. I have strong opinions of the X-Men for a book I don't really read. But anyway. So we're going on here. They have found Dr. Fate. He has been wrapped up in a sarcophagus, and turns he's been dead for 1,000 years. So someone wanted him to be found. Someone wanted him to know that none of them are safe. That's pretty much what that means, and Karen's not feeling it. Did Karen have a crush on Khalid Nasur? I don't know how old Khalid Nasur is in the story, so it might not be weird. But I'd risk it for Power Girl. Let's go. But for some reason, Karen's not looking too good. Looking all kind of green and shot. So, who has shot Power Girl? Who has destroyed one of DC's finest waifus? It's some dude with a gun. He apparently has the power of time. So he sped up the effects that kryptonite can have on her. So normal dose felt like it was years of exposure. So he was able to just kill her. Gentleman Ghost, he reverses him back to when he was alive. Why? So he can shoot him dead with a gun. And he goes on and on and on. It's kind of messed up. This one guy who has a family history of brain disease. So he just accelerated his age to where his brain had the disease. It's so messed up. Aged people to death. I'm like, this is dark. It's also the same dude we saw in the Golden Age special that Helena kept saying. So this is insane. We're through the looking glass here, people. Actually, we're not anywhere yet. But anyway, so what happens next? Well, it goes after Huntress. I'm old. She actually, remember Snow White? She looks like what happened when the evil queen drank the bitch poison. We'll just call it that. And became evil and wanted to kill a little girl. More than usual. And, it goes there. But luckily, Mama comes in through the glass, like her husband taught her, and she throws a snow globe. And it sends her back in town. Now, why a snow globe? Why a snow globe? Why a snow globe that sends her back to 1941? Well, if you recall, in the pages of Flashpoint Beyond, also written by Jeff Johns, also this story also takes place because of the events of Flashpoint Beyond, the Flashpoint universe was kept in a snow globe. So we have to presume that in that globe was 1940. All right? And this is the JSA at that time. So this is where Huntress is. In 1940s JSA. Yay! Okay, that's how the comic ends. I need to calm down. So ultimately, it's green. It's good. It was fun. We probably won't do this color scheme thing again. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I like this story. I did. We didn't spend a lot of time in Huntress's head. We didn't spend too much time in her head. So we get her motivations. We did just spend the special in her head too. So we get it. This mysterious redhead person, apparently someone from the old JSA comics, which I haven't read, so hey, that'll be nice when we get that reveal, and I can act like, hey, I heard people talked about him. So there's that. It's interesting to see the position the JSA is in, because while I get Helena's purpose, she hasn't given much thought to the public influence. And granted, sometimes you have to not care about the public, or sometimes you have to do what you feel is right here, and sure, the X-Men, again, probably felt that too. But it'd be like the same thing when you see Batman and Two-Face working together. Like, okay, why? Or like that period when Riddler was a good guy for a bit before Flashpoint. Comics really were so much more interesting back in the day. They felt like less contrived, but whatever, that's another issue. This issue here, I like the art. I like the pattern, which was set in the Golden Age special, which is Dr. Fate's getting murdered, and here the same thing is happening. So whatever this dude has planned, killing Dr. Fate is always step one. Whether it be the past, the present, the future, he has to try to kill Dr. Fate. And, yeah, that's good. So what will Helena find in 1940s JSA? Will she find a way to figure out who this person is, who's been going around killing Dr. Fate? Will she find a way to save her dad? Will she understand what the JSA means? Or will she be able to change those newer sidekick, those newer generation of children of villains into something a bit more worthwhile? Who knows? Who knows? I'm looking forward to seeing what Jeff Johns has planned. Anyway, with that in mind, if you are new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some of my videos, and I'll catch you all later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.